Good afternoon, friends. So today we are going to discuss O'Toole's description. That is O'Toole's intellectual contribution in the world of public administration. To begin with, first of all, you should know that O'Toole is one of the prominent scholars in the field of public administration, and his public management model is basically inspired by the contemporary realities of the time. We are living in a world which is more integrated than ever. We are living in a complex matrix of interdependency of institutions, of agencies, of the processes, technique, or technology. We are living in a vast, very complex matrix of interdependency which pervade different dimensions of life, your social, economic, political, cultural life. We affect and we get affected. And one of the few principles one of the few principles which enjoys universal acceptance or relevance is the principle of integral existence. That on the face of it, things may appear to have a distinct identity of their own, having their own significance, relevance, but relevance of every single thing depends on its interdependency with several other things. So there is one concept of integral existence which bind us together. You talk about institutions, you talk about agencies or tools or technology or social system, economic system, political system, cultural system. We affect or we get affected. Sometimes this interdependency may be clearly visible or sometimes it may not be visible. Sometimes it will be more prolific or it may be less prolific or something like this. But there is no denying the fact that we are living in a complex matrix of interdependency in different aspects of life. More particularly, if you see the developments in the last few decades, or against the backdrop of what we say liberalization, privatization, globalization, all those things. So it is again this backdrop that you need to understand public administration and governance. So, public administration, public management, for that matter, governance too, has become very much complex in contemporary times, thanks to the factors like industrialization or urbanization, which has been in progress for a long period of time. Then the idea of a welfare state, which has led to public administration assuming multi-dimensional responsibilities for progressive transformation or changes in the life of the people life for people. So, concept of welfare state, or for that matter, industrialization, forces of industrialization and urbanization, then scientific and technological developments taking place in different spheres of life, scientific and technological, which has brought a lot of changes in our standard of living, the way we look at the things. Life has become very much fast. And then again, the most important thing, thanks to IT revolution, and then we are living an IT revolution, and then the forces of liberalization, privatization, and globalization. Because so we are living in a world where our decisions affect others, and we get affected by the decisions of others. So that's why we're saying that we are living in a matrix of vast, complex matrix of interdependency. So therefore, public administration governance too has become very much challenging. So subject matter of governance, you talk about education, you talk about public health, you talk about agriculture or irrigation or industry, whatever things, or infrastructural developments. Given the technical complexity of the subject matter in contemporary times, it is not possible for any public agency. It is not possible for any public agency to frame policies and to implement the policies in isolation from other agencies. No institution and no agency working in any field of activity, no institution and agency can accommodate within itself the capacity, competence, the power, all those things, so as to remain totally self-dependent, having nothing to do with others. No, you need collaborative action. You need collaborative governance. More than one institutions, they work together, they cooperate with one another, then they compensate for the deficiencies of one other kind in one another, and in togetherness they are expected to accomplish something which none of them could accomplish on their own. You talk about any program projects of the government, you can see one thing which is clearly visible everywhere. It is network governance. It is that complex matrix of interdependency. Governance, development, by its very nature, is a multi-starrer script. You have more than one actors. Just like a very good movie, you find which has a complex script. You talk about Sholay, talk about Bahubali, or any movie of your choice. You will find that there are more than one actors. You just remove the one, the entire structure comes crashing down. So you have institutions and agencies in the government having their distinct identity. They have their own distinct operational domain and jurisdiction, but they cannot afford to work in watertight compartments. To discharge the responsibilities within the bounds of their jurisdiction, they need to interact with other institutions. They are required to contribute in the jurisdiction of others, and they are required to invite the relevant actions from different institutions so as to ensure that within their domain they carry out their responsibilities more effectively. It is not possible for in contemporary times, it is not possible for institutions and agencies to work in isolation from one another. So, public management, public administration has to be seen in consonance with the imperatives of network theory and network governance. It is here that you can see, the important contribution of Toole. So Toole's description is basically about that intellectual contribution which streamline the significance of developing very effective and efficient, and very productive and meaningful matrix of interdependency among governmental institutions, private institutions, various technology organizations and other service providers or the communities wherever it is required. So you develop that kind of productive relationship, and then only you can accomplish any goal and objective. You take the example, one of the fantastic examples of network governance, you can say Delhi Metro Rail Corporation. So Delhi Metro Rail Corporation, where the government of India, then the government of National Capital Territory of Delhi, okay, then various technology companies and other service providers, all of them put together, they contribute, they carry out different kinds of actions. So they have made this project successful. It means you have government of India, you have government of National Capital Territory of Delhi, and then you have various private companies, various service providers, technology companies, all of them put together. So for the construction, for the maintenance, for deliverance of services, the data collection, processing, to running trains and time with speed and economy, a lot many things are there. So in furtherance of that goals and objectives, you have different organized institutions. They are working in a kind of collaboration. So role is assigned to each one of them. Then coordination is obviously is very important. Otherwise, everything will collapse. So wherever you have network governance, accountability is very much important. Flexibility, resiliency. Then you need very progressive, very prudent, and adaptive leadership. So whenever any kind of friction, conflict arises, or somebody is escaping the responsibility, or for something falling under its jurisdiction, then it has to be caught hold of. Duplication of effort has to be avoided. Lot many things are there. So in contemporary times, public administration or governance, public management, these things have become very much complex. But remember, do not focus only on complexity. We have any opportunity as well. So information technology, and with all the advent of artificial intelligence, many modern tools, techniques, statistical tool techniques, methods, process, we are much better placed compared to earlier period. We are much better placed to make an assessment of the situation, to make anticipation of the things, to control and regulate the things, thanks to that a significant development which have taken place in the field of technology. So on the one hand, you have various challenges, but on the other hand, you have opportunities. So, network governance and public management. Network governance, public management put together has delivered in most of the countries a very good model of governance. It is no doubt challenging, but at the same time, you have a lot of advantage. You can manage the things well. It is again this backdrop that you need to understand O'Toole's contribution. So, network governance has become a reality. Network governance has become a reality. Institutions have to work together in a meaningful relationship. Why? Because no institution in its individual capacity can deal with the complex the complexity of the subject matter falling under its jurisdiction. You have to help others and you have to seek help from others. So that cooperation has to take place in a very good, well institutionalized environment of rules, regulations, laws, protocols. generally acceptable norms and practices. In this way, you can take advantage of this collaborative, governance. So, O'Toole's contribution has to be seen against this contextual backdrop. His intellectual contributions largely revolve around the understanding and the response to understanding of the subject matters like inter-organization relationship and network theory and complexities of public management in contemporary times. So O'Toole is one of the prominent scholars, and he dealt extensively with the challenges and the problems associated with deliverance of goods and services with speed and economy, to the society. And how can we deal with such challenges with the help of public management in the network governance? How to take advantage of network governance, network theory? How can we apply that so as to ensure that with the same amount of resources we could maximize the output, we could improve the quality of governance? So O'Toole's contribution has to be seen against this backdrop. He dealt extensively with inter-organizational relationships, network theory, and complexities of public management in modern times. Yeah. So you have core constituents. What are the core constituents of public management model given by O'Toole? The first is public management in networks. He emphasizes O'Toole's emphasis on network governance. He says that in contemporary times, no public agency or institutions operate in isolation. They work, they work in collaboration with one other institution and agencies, and that make the thing very much challenging. On the other hand, it brings several benefits, but on the other hand, it also makes the things very much challenging. So networks, we work in networks, not in isolation. And if you have network of more than one institutions, it means different institutions, although they have come together to collaborate to accomplish certain things. But don't forget that every institution has its own distinct institutional identity, goals, and purpose, its value system. So, therefore, when you have more than one actors and we have more than one institutional goals, then things become difficult. So, you have different institutions or different actors, different goals and purpose, but certain things they converge. They converge. So, in the process of collaboration or collective execution of the things, problems are bound to arise. So, we need to develop things and mechanism to deal with that. So today, no public agency, you can see that no public agency actually operates in isolation. They work in networks, and network you have multiple goals and multiple actors, more than one actors and more than one goals. Again, therefore, challenges will always be there. What kind of challenges? To maintain accountability, cohesiveness, and effectiveness, trust-based relationship, and coordinating you have more than one institutions, more than one, you have institutional goals. Okay, they come together for certain purpose. So there will always be some challenges and problems related to that operational cohesiveness. Unity of direction has to be maintained. Unity of direction has to be maintained. That operational cohesiveness has to be maintained. Okay, then accountability has to be enforced. Then that resiliency has to be there, because remember, when two or more subsystems work together towards the accomplishment of some common objective, it does not mean that they have shed off their distinct identity. It means that they have distinct goals, but certain purpose, for the accomplishment of certain purpose, they come together. And remember, different organizations are constantly evolving, and they are not evolving with the same pace, not always in the same direction. They are different from one another in terms of their value system, in terms of their goals and institutional goals and objectives, the path which they prefer to follow. But they come together, they converge at one place for the accomplishment of some limited purpose. So in the course of doing so, you cannot expect that they have totally surrendered or they have shed off their distinct identity and goals. So that's why conflict, friction, little bit of conflict, friction will always take place. That is required to be taken care of. And when you are making collective effort, sometimes it becomes very much difficult to enforce accountability. Something wrong has happened. Central government would impose the blame. Central government may blame the state government, that you have not done what was expected of you. Or state government can shift, the blame on the central government, or both of them can shift it on some private sector organizations or agencies, or sometimes on the local communities or the technology companies, etc. So it becomes very much difficult to enforce enforce accountability. But it does not mean that because of these limitations we cannot we should opt for something other than this. No, given the complexity of governance in modern times, it is not so much a matter of choice. It has become a matter of compulsion. It has become a matter of compulsion. You have to work with different institutions and agencies because it is highly improbable that one institution will have all possible capabilities put together at one place to accomplish its goals or to formulate its policies and to implement such policies. You need network of institutions. You need network of institutions. You take the example of Delhi Metro Rail Corporation, or you talk about Manrega, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. Okay, here also you have central government, you have state government, you have some private companies running various projects. Then the local community is also involved. Local government is involved. Then you talk about Operation Sindoor. Operation Sindoor, it appears that you have Indian Army, Navy, Air Force, and you have the government of India, political leadership, administrative leadership, and your armed forces, then ISRO and the DRDO, and several other institutions. The drone that you are using, or various tools, techniques, weapons you are using. Here also you can see the contributions from the private sector. So you have government institutions and agencies, you have private sector or technology companies. Getting a point? Then you have research and development institutions. And Operation Sindoor is not only about that. The media persons, they are also playing an important role. I'm not talking very specific sense, the broader sense. All of us are there. And citizenry is also there. So this is also example of network governance, networked response. And see the consequence, what happened? Fantastic collaboration. It has set a precedent, an example for the global community. That lot many things can be learned from this operation. They're one of the best example of network operation. Such a good collaboration, very much wizard, calibrated, goal oriented. So much of precision, clinical precision. With within few minutes, few hours, you accomplish your goals and objectives with minimum damage or almost no damage. You have imposed huge military cost. Pakistan. This is the example of network governance, that we work together. You have National Security Council, you have NSA, you have political leadership, your defense ministry, then you have the military leadership, then you have top scientists, DRDO, ISRO, and several other institutions, and see how nicely they have accomplished the goal. It is not only a matter of having very high sounding tools and technology. Your ability to draw appropriate strategy, then taking tactical decisions, operational decisions, that operational cohesiveness, that unity of command, that unity of direction and purpose, collaborative action, so much of trust and confidence. That is that kind of rhythmic association of different institutions, agencies, so well aware of their distinct responsibilities, at the same time know where to collaborate, and where to associate with one another to carry out something which none of them could accomplish in individual capacity. The best example, a case study. भविष्य में हो सकता है इसे पढ़ाया जाए कि कोऑर्डिनेशन कैसे अचीव किया जाता है इतने सारे इंस्टीट्यूशन नेटवर्क. You can achieve fantastic goals, but it is something which is required to be achieved by very organized action. This is not something that you can learn overnight. They have been working over a long period of time. That Operation Sindoor clearly establishes, it exhibits that something was going on sustained basis over a long period of time. There was very good preparation. Otherwise, this kind of collaborative action, well concerted, measured, calibrated action, you hit decisively, you accomplish, and you draw at your own choice with a message that we can again initiate it any time. The blink of eye, we can destroy. And see the people on the other hand, they have also exhibited network governance. झूठ बोलना, चोरी, मतलब कि बेहयाई की हद हो गई. मार खाने के बाद भी सब मिले हैं. वहाँ की आवाम भी सब लेके चल रही है. ठीक है, मीडिया पर्सन भी बहुत सारे ऐसे हैं समझा रहे हमने भारत को हरा दिया, उसको फील्ड मार्शल बना दिया. फील्ड मार्शल बना दिया. अपनी दुनिया में ही है वो. झूठ मूठ कहाँ कहाँ से वो फोटोग्राफी ले आते हैं. उनका काम ही यही सब है. उसमें उनका कोलेब्रेशन बहुत अच्छा है. आर्मी है, ISI है, जेहादीज हैं, पॉलिटिकल लीडरशिप है, लीजेंडरी में से कुछ लोग हैं, सब मिलजुल कर यही सब फेक वो फोटो वगैरह और वीडियोस वगैरह ये सब बनाना, फेक वीडियोस वगैरह बना लेना, वहाँ का छुड़ा के यहाँ का छुड़ा करके दिखा देना. उसमें भी जहाँ कॉमन सेंस थोड़ा बहुत चाहिए, वो कॉमन सेंस भी नहीं है. कि तुम जो पेंटिंग दे रहे हो ये सीधा सीधा दिख रहा है कि ये पेंटिंग तो चाइना का वो जो मॉक ड्रिल वगैरह कर रहे होंगे उसकी पेंटिंग है, गन्स की, तुम यहाँ दे रहे हो। तो नेटवर्क गवर्नेंस ऐसी बात नहीं है कि पाकिस्तान में नहीं है, वहाँ भी है, लेकिन उसका ओरिएंटेशन अलग है। झूठ फरेब में क्या सुंदर उनका कोऑर्डिनेशन है। एक साथ सब, कोई एक कम से कम जागृत होता है वहाँ पे कि अरे बंद करो, ये हंसने और तमाशा करने का समय नहीं है, ये विचार करने का समय है। ये धीरे 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 एस्केलेशन होता जा रहा है। आप देखो, सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक के बाद बालाकोट एयर स्ट्राइक, और बालाकोट एयर स्ट्राइक के बाद अभी वाला पहलगाम में जो हुआ उसके अगेंस्ट में ऑपरेशन स्ट्राइक, धीरे धीरे न्यूज इज गेटिंग टाइटेंड अराउंड योर नेक, और तुम हंसी आ रही है, तुम जलसा मना रहे हो। मतलब सही में आदमी का समय जब बुरा आता है तो मती भ्रष्ट हो जाती है। अभी उनको बैठ के सोचना चाहिए कि वो क्या कर सकते हैं। तुम्हारे एयर बेस को उड़ा दिया, 11 एयर बेसिस को उड़ा दिया, हमारे आतंकवादी ठिकानों को घुस के घर में मार के आ गए वो, ठीक है, और तुम बैठ करके जलसा मना रहे हो, और तुम बैठ के तमाशा करो, झूठ फरे फैला रहे हो। ये सोचने और विचारने का समय है, लेकिन मत करो, हमारा क्या जाता है। ठीक है, so ये एग्जाम्पल ऑपरेशन सिंदूर लेटेस्ट एग्जाम्पल है, ये नेटवर्क गवर्नेंस का ही पार्ट है, ये वेलफेयर सब कुछ है। लेकिन एक से अधिक इंस्टीट्यूट के क्या कर सकते हैं हम लोग, थिएटर कमांड की बात करते हैं, वो क्या होगा, वो भी नेटवर्किंग, नेटवर्किंग है। आर्मी, नेवी, एयरफोर्स और कई एजेंसीज सबको मिला के बनाते हैं कॉम्प्लेक्स ऑफ वेरी meticulously designed productive interdependency of assets and resources, ठीक है, ऑफ डिफरेंट इंस्टीट्यूशंस, एजेंसीज, आर्मी, नेवी, एयरफोर्स सबको मिला के बनाए, जिससे कि जब कभी किसी भी एरिया में कोई प्रॉब्लम हो तो एक कलेक्टिव और वेल कोऑर्डिनेटेड एक्शन होता है ऑल साइड्स। आपने बना रखा है जिससे कि आप कॉस्ट को मिनिमाइज कर सके, इकोनोमाइज कर सके ऑपरेशंस को, और ऑपरेशंस की जो इफेक्टिवनेस है उसको और बढ़ा सके। मतलब एक जगह पे आपकी आर्मी, नेवी, एयरफोर्स वगैरह सबके रिसोर्स, एसेट्स, देखिए ये सारी चीज़ें एक जगह पे कोऑर्डिनेटेड है। जब भी कोई स्ट्राइक होगा तो फुल पावर के साथ, फुल कोऑर्डिनेटेड, ये है नेटवर्क गवर्नेंस। तो पब्लिक मैनेजमेंट एंड नेटवर्क थियरी दोनों को साथ लाना, यही काम है ओ टूल्स, वही थियरी। इन कंटेम्प्रेरी टाइम्स पब्लिक मैनेजमेंट, पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन कोई आइसोलेशन में करने की चीज़ नहीं। ये सब, चाहे वो मनरेगा का मामला हो या फिर कौशल विकास योजना, आप ई गवर्नेंस का एग्जाम्पल ले लो। ई गवर्नेंस सरकार जो है, ई गवर्नेंस का बेसिक वो ऑब्जेक्टिव है ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन टेक, ठीक है, डिजिटल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन, ठीक है, डिजिटल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन के थ्रू सोसाइटी को कई तरह के गुड्स और सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड करना विद स्पीड एंड इकोनॉमी एंड कॉस्ट इफेक्टिव डिलीवरेंस ऑफ सर्विसेज। लेकिन गांव गांव तक वो सारी चीज़ें तो सब लोग वैसा अवेल नहीं कर पाएंगे सर्विसेज को, तो आपने कम्युनिटी सर्विस सेंटर बना दिया। इंडिया में एक पूरा एक नेटवर्क है कम्युनिटी सर्विस सेंटर्स, ई मित्र हम लोग बोलते हैं, वो सब सेंटर्स हैं, एक नेटवर्क है पूरा जाल। ठीक है, ऊपर सरकार जो है वो जो भी सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड कर रही है, ऑनलाइन सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड करती है, बेटर अकाउंटेबिलिटी, बेटर एफिशिएंसी, ठीक है, फॉर कॉस्ट रिडक्शन, ठीक है, ये सब चीज़ें, पॉलिसी मेकिंग हैज़ बिकम ईजियर, यू कैन कलेक्ट फीडबैक, यू कैन अप्लाई करेक्टिव्स, ये सारी चीज़ें होंगी। लेकिन गवर्नमेंट ऊपर से बैठ के मिनिस्ट्रीज डिपार्टमेंट से अकेले नहीं कर सकती, एक पूरा एक नेटवर्क है। ठीक है, डिजिटल डिवाइड जो है उस गैप को ब्रीच करना, डिजिटल डिवाइड जो उसको कम करना। गांव में बहुत सारे लोग हैं, अभी वो सारी सर्विसेज ई गवर्नेंस के गवर्नमेंट कर रही है, वो अवेल नहीं कर सकते, उनको कम्युनिटी सर्विस सेंटर पे जाना है, मामूली सा खर्च है वो देना है। वो आपको बिजली का बिल जमा देना हो, या बैंक में खाता खुलवाना हो, या पासपोर्ट बनवाना हो, या कोई भी सरकार की सर्विसेज जो भी अवेलेबल है, ठीक है, ऑनलाइन उनको अवेल करना हो, वो लोग कर सकते हैं। धीरे धीरे लोग खुद सारी चीज़ें सीख के अपने मोबाइल से करना चालू करेंगे। तो नेटवर्क and it assumes added significance, in a country like India, vast country, population, society is not so much homogeneous, there's a lot of disparity in income, wealth distribution, in terms of education, health, other facilities, all जगह पे differences। The help of information tech governance, we are trying to bridge that gap, okay, but how to ensure that everybody is capable of availing of such benefits? So here you develop a network of institutions, लोकल लेवल पे, लोकल कमिटी, वहाँ से लोगों को लेकर के आप एक नेटवर्क बनाते हैं। तो ऑन द वन हैंड दे ब्रीज दैट गैप, ठीक है, दे जो गैप है उस गैप को ब्रीच करते हैं, एंड दे प्रोवाइड सर्विस सोसाइटी, एंड ग्रेजुअली पीपल आर ऑल्सो लर्निंग, ठीक है, एंड द मैसेज इज देयर दैट थ्रू कलेक्टिव इंटरप्राइज वी कैन अकम्प्लिश एनीथिंग, ठीक है, वी कैन ब्रिंग सर्विसेज टू द डोर्स ऑफ poorest of the poor with the speed and economy, thanks to this network. Had it not been for our ability to explore the possibilities of network governance, It would be very much difficult for us to deal with corona crisis. Imagine, in the wake of corona crisis, we made full use of this network governance. So central government, state government agencies, police department, or even teachers were the part of that collaborative action. Largest vaccination program to provide food and other kind of benefits or the medicine to the people, the door of the poorest of the poor, all such things became possible. Why? Because the government developed a very vast network of institutions from center to state to the local community, and so well coordinated with a lot of resiliency, a lot of flexibility. You have dispersed, you have decision making authority and power very prudently that these are the decisions that you take on your own. Otherwise, there will be a delay in providing services. You decide the things on your own because you are proximate to ground realities. Okay, but up to this level, beyond that, decision has to be taken by state government, state government institution. And then at the top level, the macro level, that policy guideline and direction has to be given by the central government. Because when you have network governance, what is of utmost importance is coordination. What is of utmost importance is the leadership at the top. It is that leadership which is progressive, which is dynamic, which ensure unity of direction, unity of commands. There, an element of centralization is required. Otherwise, decentralization will collapse. You need very progressive and adaptive and dynamic leadership at the top. These are the things which are associated with public management network theory and O2 dealing with possibilities as well as possibilities and then challenges and how to deal with it. So you have here public management in networks I have discussed, multi-organization collaboration, because he says that multi-organization collaboration is not an easy thing. Multi-organization collaboration, more than one institution, agencies, public organizations, private organizations, research and development institutions, organizations, local communities, all of various companies, they put together, they work. Because so you have, when you have collaboration, what is the problem? That different institutions are evolving with different pace and different directions. For certain purpose, they come together. That's why conflict friction might take place, which are required to be addressed very smartly, very prudently. Challenges to maintain accountability, cohesiveness, and effectiveness. Trust based relationship, coordinating mechanism. Trust based. It requires trust based relationship because more than one organizations are there. Their relations should be based on trust and confidence. They cannot afford to work in different watertight compartments. They have their distinct operational domain and then they have to cooperate with one another. It requires a lot of understanding, mutual trust, and confidence. And that's why we need some kind of coordinating mechanism. You need some officers sitting at the top. They are network managers. They keep exercise, they exercise vigilance over how this network is dealing with the things. In this network, if there's a problem with this subsystem or that system, it has to be addressed, it has to be neutralized, it has to be corrected. So it is not like just you have a network. No, you need a group of officers, very prudent, very capable, very much efficient. They keep focusing on the same network. So wherever problems will arise, it is required to be the problems are required to be diffused, and then it keeps working. Problems are bound to arise, but it has to be. You need some kind of mechanism, and then you have implementation and networks. I said that whether it is policy making or policy implementation, in both the cases, you need such network. With the vast network of institutions, agencies at the national level, state level, or the local level, implementation becomes possible. Implementation is a very dynamic activity. You may have taken decisions at the top, but those who are going to implement it finally at the grassroots level or the deliverance of services, they are more proximate to the ground realities. They are exposed to the will and aspirations or expectations of the communities. So therefore, those who are associated with implementations, they are required to be given adequate power and authority to change their stance and to bring desirable change, to have adequate power to decide the things or to change the things. Because local conditions very often at the time of implementation, at the local level, things may differ. Things may be at variance with what policymakers would have thought of. It happens. Local conditions differ from one district to district or state to state. So those who are involved in implementation, they are required to be given adequate space to bring changes in their nature and pattern of response, obviously within the bounds of certain they cannot cross that limit, but this much of resilience is required. So implementation The implementation and networks. Network approach for implementation. So at the grassroots level, you involve various NGOs, non-governmental organizations or self-help groups, then the civil society, active citizenry, number of other institutions, so local panchayats, all of them, they are that you develop a network and you assign the role and you get the things done. In the absence of this network or coordination, and best of the policies will fail to accomplish the desired. So at the level of implementation also you need network. It happens contemporary times. आप मनरेगा या कौशल विकास योजना कोई भी योजना आप ले लो, उसके अंदर क्या होगा, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट भी है, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट का स्टेक है, उससे क्या करना है, फिर डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल पे आप देखोगे डिस्ट्रिक्ट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन वो काम करता है, कई सारे एनजीओज हैं, वॉलंटरी एजेंसीज हैं, ठीक है, कई सारे इंस्टीट्यूशन एजेंसी रिसर्च एंड डेवलपमेंट से जुड़े हुए हैं, वो भी आपको फैक्ट्स और फिगर्स देते हैं। एक कोलैबोरेटिव एक्शन होता है, उसमें जिला परिषद पंचायत समिति के लोगों को इन्वॉल्व करते हैं, ग्राम पंचायत के लोगों को इन्वॉल्व करते हैं, सबका अपना अपना रोल है, सब मिल करके एक साथ जब काम करते हैं एक रिदम में, जिसमें कि कोशिश ये की जाती है कि देयर इज नो करप्शन, अकाउंटेबिलिटी फिक्स, रोल इज असाइंड, accountability is enforced, resilience is there. If there any kind of problems do arise, please raise the problem. You need to develop grievance redressal mechanism. If there is any kind of complaint or friction or conflict that is required to be addressed, leadership in the district may be provided by the district collector. So things are assigned like this. Point is clear? So you need networked approach for implementation. And finally, challenges in network governance, coordination and communication, as I've discussed, because in network governance, network governance, some kind of collaborative action is placed among different. So communication and coordination is extremely good. Communication coordination, because it is through communication that coordination, and communication is not only about writing a letter, writing a mail. Communication is about that they they are aware of they are aware of developments which are taking place in the different subsystems. They must be capable of anticipating things, because communication never becomes complete unless the message sent by the sender has been understood by the receiver in the way and manner which sender wanted him or her to understand. So communication is not such simple thing that you are speaking something, I am speaking something, you are listening to me, and communication is complete. No. To what extent you have been able to understand, the message which has been encrypted in my words or something. So through body language or through what I speak or what I write. So unless you have understood the message in a way and manner which I wanted to understand, communication is not complete. That is, that communication will be a failed communication. And then you respond without understanding the thing. Then you respond on the basis of half-baked understanding. Your communication will also fail here. And if the communication fails, no cooperation and coordination takes place. Because communication is the key to cooperation and coordination. Therefore, you need to develop ways, means, and mechanism so that communication takes place among all the stakeholders, governmental institutions, central government or state government or NGOs, world agencies, all such institutions, or research and development institutes, or local communities, or Jila Panchayat, district administration. There has to be a well managed, maintained communication. Good communication system is the one which facilitates smooth, very smooth flow of information to various places of decision making with list of friction, list of conflict. It means all the stakeholders, they are aware of the developments which are taking place in their domain and in the domain of others. अपने domain में जो हो रहा है तो आपको पता ही है, but what is happening the domain of others, you are also aware of that, and that brings that sequential action, collaborative action with list of friction and list of conflict. This is the key. So communication and coordination, if in this area, if you're not strong, then network governance will become a liability. Different organizations, institutions will keep moving in the different directions. They may have come together to accomplish a common goal, but there's a possibility that behind the curtain, each of them is actually perpetuating its own narrow institutional goals. So conflict and friction is bound to take place. Goal displacement will take place. So communication and coordination is the lifeblood, you can say, of network governance. Your cooperation or collaborative action begins with communication. You need to develop very efficient means and mechanism for communication and coordination. All the stakeholders from time to time, they meet with one another. If there are any kind of problems or grievances, that has to be addressed. Clear? So regularly, they should meet what the problem and to devise ways and means to accomplish the things in the best possible manner with higher level of efficiency. Then conflicting goals, as I said, you have in network governance different institutions. You have more than one stakeholders, different actors. So they come together to accomplish something, but they still retain their distinct institutional goals. Sometimes conflict of interest takes that one of the actors is doing something in a way and manner that is undermining the interest or that is encroaching upon the jurisdiction of others. That's the point. So conflict of interest has to be managed. There may be conflict of interest between central government and state government or state level institutions and the district administration or district administration in the local community. So that the conflict of interest is required to be managed. And then you have measuring accountability. It becomes in collaborative action. It becomes sometimes it becomes difficult to measure accountability because institutions, no doubt, they have their distinct operational domain and identity. But if the final outcome, if the final outcome is not up to the mark, a final outcome is at variance with what was expected, then the blame shifting exercise begins. Who will assume the responsibility? It becomes difficult to enforce accountability. If you ask the local government, they would say, now, how can you hold us responsible? Because these kind of services were not provided by that company or this company. We were not given, the appropriate tools and techniques, or the computers that you have given is obsolete, is not working. We're not being given adequate financial resources. Then state government can shift the blame on happening. So enforcement of accountability becomes difficult. Measurement of accountability becomes difficult. Then resource dependency. So in network governance, organizations become dependent on one another. Sometimes what happens that if there is a problem, thanks to this complex dependency, institutional dependency, if any problem arises with one or two subsystems, so it disturbs the collective action under the network of different. So that dependency is there, but dependency has advantage as well as disadvantage. आप समुद्र की समुद्र आप कभी आप सी बीच पे कभी गए होंगे तो आपने देखा होगा वहाँ पे ऐसा होता है लोग चैन बना करके समुद्र में जाते हैं कि लहरें बहुत तेज हैं, लहरें बहुत तेज है, जोरदार अकेले कर रहेंगे तो बहा के ले जाए, इसलिए 5-10 लोग क्या करेंगे, एक दूसरे का हाथ पकड़ लेते हैं। लहरें बहुत तेज होती हैं, तो उसमें छोटी मोटी लहरें अगर आएँ तो आपको एडवांटेज दिखता है कि ठीक है, कोई भी अगर लड़खड़ाया तो बाकी लोग उससे पकड़ लेंगे। लेकिन और बहुत जोरदार लहर अगर आ जाए और आपस में हाथ में उन्होंने ढंग से एक दूसरे को नहीं पकड़ा है, तो एक दूसरे को ढंग से नहीं पकड़ा है, इसकी वजह से क्या होगा कि एक दो को भी जोरदार चोट अगर लगी, भयंकर अगर तो वो तो खुद गिरेगा और साथ साथ दूसरों को भी ले जाएगा। ग्लोबलाइजेशन आप देख, इकोनॉमिक एक मैट्रिक्स ऑफ इंटरडिपेंडेंसी है अमंग डिफरेंट इकोनॉमी, उसका बहुत सारा एडवांटेज भी है। यू कैन अवेल ऑफ द बेनिफिट फ्रॉम वन अनदर, ठीक है, लेकिन नुकसान भी, अगर एक को सर्दी खांसी हुई उसके साथ जो जुड़े हैं वो भी गए। तो कई बार वो चेन जो आप बना के समुद्र में जा रहे हैं, उसका किसी सिचुएशन में उसका एडवांटेज भी है, लेकिन परिस्थिति बदलते देर नहीं लगती है कि ये चेन की वजह से ही जहाँ 2 लोगों को जाना था वहाँ 3, 4, 5 और पटक के सब गिर गए साथ में। ठीक है, एक दूसरे का हाथ पकड़ते समय नहीं मिला कि छुड़ा के भागे, इसकी वजह से भी जा सकते हैं। एक साथ इकट्ठे होकर चल रहे हैं तो कोई युद्ध जीत भी सकते हैं किसी जगह पे, और कई बार एक साथ इकट्ठे चले थे सारे सैनिक, इसलिए सब खत्म हो गए। ठीक है, तो कब साथ आना और एडवांटेजेस होगा, डिसएडवांटेज बताना। इसलिए क्या होता है कि नेटवर्क गवर्नेंस पे हम लोग को कोशिश ये करनी है कि इंस्टीट्यूशंस व्हेन दे कम टुगेदर, ठीक है, तो मेरिट फार आउटवेज डिमेरिट। जो एडवांटेजेस है वो डिसएडवांटेज के हर चीज़ पे बात लागू होती है। कोई भी सिस्टम या टेक्नोलॉजी जो है उसके प्रति एक्सेप्टेंस जो है वो नेट इफेक्ट पे होता है। आईटी है तो आईटी के बहुत सारे प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, साइबर क्राइम फलाना ठिकाना कई तरह के प्रॉब्लम्स हैं आईटी के, लेकिन उसके एडवांटेज ही बहुत अधिक है। तब तक ये चलेगा जब तक मेरिट्स और एडवांटेजेस फार आउटवे डिस। तो हम लोग की कोशिश क्या होती है कि आईटी का जो पूरा फ़ायदा हो सकता है, ट्रेड, कॉमर्स, बिजनेस, इंडस्ट्री, कम्युनिकेशन, ठीक है, इन सब चीज़ों में क्रिएटिव थिंकिंग उसमें मदद करने के लिए कई तरह की चीज़ें उसमें आईटी की, लेकिन जो लिमिटेशंस है धीरे धीरे उसको आपको डिफ्यूज़ कर, साइबर क्राइम जो है उसको, तब जाकर वो नेट एडवांटेज। तो अभी तक ऐसा है, इसलिए हम सब मोबाइल लेके आईटी के मदद ले रहे हैं। नेटवर्क गवर्नेंस के साथ भी यही है, उसकी मेरिट्स हैं, डिमेरिट। नेटवर्क गवर्नेंस बहुत ही बेनिफिशियल होगा अगर आपकी कोऑर्डिनेशन if you have very effective ways, means, and mechanism for communication and coordination, if you lack that means and mechanism, then it may become a chaos. फाइनल प्रोडक्टिविटी कुछ नहीं, आपस में lack of institutional and policy coordination lead to unending series of conflict and friction. Organizations may be together and may not be together. chaos हो जाएगा. जैसे इंडिया लाइन्स का है, वो साथ में है कि साथ में नहीं है, कुछ पता नहीं चलता है, कोई कोऑर्डिनेशन कुछ नहीं. इंडिया लाइन्स साथ में है, इंडिया लाइन जैसी कोई चीज़ है, फिर उसके बाद देखोगे उसके जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूंट्स के जो पार्टनर्स हैं, एक दूसरे को गालियाँ देते फिरते हैं कई बार. यहाँ कॉपरेट करेंगे, स्टेट के अंदर कॉपरेट नहीं करेंगे, वो उसके पीछे, वो उसके पीछे, कई तरह की चीज़ें, कुछ पता नहीं चलता. फिर बीच में कोई महान व्यक्ति आ जाएगा, नहीं हम अपन को सबको साथ में रहना है, फिर उसके बाद कोई बोलेगा तुम हीरो मत बनो, हटो यहाँ से, तुम कौन होते हो. तो ये सब चीज़ें चले, पूरा क्योस है. तो जो नेटवर्क जो बना, उसमें जो लोग हैं उनका इंटेंट, उनका पर्पस में क्लैरिटी नहीं है. वो साथ में आए लिमिटेड पर्पस के लिए कि हमें मोदी जी को हरा देना है या कोई ऐसा करना है, लेकिन कोई उनका कोई विज़न या गोल पर्पस बहुत क्लैरिटी के साथ चीज़ें नहीं है कि ऐसा होगा, ये गोल है, ये हमारा फोकस है और ये हमारा लोकस है. ना तो उनका फोकस पूरी तरह से क्लियर है, या फोकस है भी कि बस हटाना है, ये कोई फोकस थोड़ी बोलते हैं. कोई विज़न विज़न कुछ है ही नहीं. और लोकस की तो बात ही मत करो, किस रास्ते से जाएंगे बताना मुश्किल. डेलीगेशन गया है ऑपरेशन सिंदूर, ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के अंदर जो कैंपेन चल रहा है उसका एक पार्ट है. तो पार्लियामेंट्रियंस है, उनका डेलीगेशन पूरी दुनिया में गया. अब उसमें देखो कांग्रेस पार्टी के लीडर्स को ले लिया. पार्टी परेशान है, उसके ही अपने सीनियर लीडर्स को डेलीगेशन ने भेज दिया, और वो तो भारत महान करते हैं, सब चीज़ें बहुत अच्छी तरीके से, शशि थरूर बाकी लोग तो हैं, बहुत अच्छे तरीके से भारत का पक्ष रख रहे हैं. और अपोजिशन की जान जा रही है यहाँ पे. अब क्या किया जाएगा. ठीक है, इसलिए नेटवर्क जो बात तो करते हैं सब लोग साथ आने की, एग्जाम्पल है, मतलब साथ में आने की बात करते हैं, लेकिन साथ में आना और एक साथ मिलकर अपनी डिस्टिंक्ट आइडेंटिटी को बरकरार रखना और फिर एक साथ मिलकर काम करना किसी गोल अकॉम्प्लिशमेंट के लिए, ये आसान काम नहीं है. इट इज़ डिफिकल्ट चैलेंजेस. हम लोग की बॉडी को देख लो, बेस्ट एग्जाम्पल है नेटवर्क. हम लोग की बॉडी के अंदर डिफरेंट सब सिस्टम्स हैं, क्या सुंदर उनके बीच नेटवर्क गवर्नेंस है. आप देखो सब कोलैबोरेशन है उनके बीच. ऐसा कोलैबोरेशन है कि वो एक दूसरे की डिस्ट्रिक्ट आइडेंटिटी का रिस्पेक्ट भी करते हैं. आईज कभी ईयर्स की जगह पे नहीं आता, ईयर्स आई के एरिया में नहीं पता चलता है कि उसने उसके जुडिक्शन में वो पूरी तरह घुसे, लेकिन आपस में कॉपरेशन है जिस लेवल तक होना चाहिए उस लेवल. किसी भी चीज़ पे आप फोकस करते हैं तो एक साथ सब मिलकर काम करते हैं. ठीक है, आईज है, तुरंत वो पिक्चर लेके ऊपर भेज देगा. ब्रेन जो है उसके पास सारी प्रोसेसिंग डॉक्यूमेंटेशन हो चुकी, बता देगा ये किंग कोबरा है. ठीक है, और हिस्स जो आवाज़ आई, आईज जो है वो उसको कैच कर लेगा और वही भेज देगा सारी चीज़ें. मतलब अपनी अपनी जगह पे सब हैं और सब मिलके फाइनली तुम्हें बता देंगे कि मूर्ख की तरह यहाँ खड़े मत रहो, जल्दी भागो यहाँ से, तुम पे अटैक करने वाला है. तो उन सब के बीच कितना अच्छा ये है नेटवर्क. आपस में बहुत अच्छी अंडरस्टैंडिंग है, कोऑर्डिनेशन बहुत ही बढ़िया है. उस कोऑर्डिनेशन की वजह से हम लोग ऐसे हैं, और हम लोग नेटवर्क गवर्नेंस की बात कर पाए. हम लोग के अंदर नेटवर्क इतना एडवांस्ड है, इसलिए बाहर की तरफ हम इंस्टीट्यूशंस के नेटवर्क को बना पा रहे हैं. वास्ट कॉम्प्लेक्स नेटवर्क ऑफ इंस्टीट्यूशन. सोचिए दिखने में कितना विशाल लग रहा है, लेकिन कुछ नहीं है, सब कुछ यहाँ से है. कुछ लोगों ने सोच करके ये बनाया है. सोचिए उसके दिमाग में क्या चीज़ें होंगी. रिसोर्स डिपेंडेंसी. ठीक है, अभी कुछ नहीं, सिंपल यही है. टूल्स, ओ टूल्स मॉडल ऑफ पब्लिक मैनेजमेंट. तो जो हम बताया उसके बेसिस पे देख लोगे, पब्लिक मैनेजमेंट एंड नेटवर्क थियरी दोनों की ब्लेंडिंग. पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, पब्लिक मैनेजमेंट, नेटवर्क थियरी के साथ. ये कंटेम्प्रेरी टाइम्स में ये रिक्वायरमेंट है. आज हर गवर्नमेंट को बहुत सारे अलग अलग इंस्टीट्यूशंस के साथ कोलैबोरेशन में काम करना पड़ेगा. तो ओ टूल्स डिस्क्रिप्शन और हिज थियरीज पब्लिक मैनेजमेंट मॉडल इज बेसिकली ऑल अबाउट अंडरस्टैंडिंग द पब्लिक मैनेजमेंट, पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन against the backdrop of contemporary realities, which demand that they work in a well-designed network of institutions, public or private sector, local government, state government, central government, research development institutions, organizations, all put together. Interdependence of organization within network, importance of adaptive leadership to manage the dynamics of networks in public management. So it demands, public management demands, at the top, the leadership has to be very much dynamic, very much resilient. You need that network managers, top administrators at the top. They just understand the what, how, and why of this network. They understand the problems which are arising. They are capable of anticipating things that in that, and accordingly, they can bring desirable changes. One subsystem, its operations may be curtailed. On the other hand, another subsystem's operational domain can be expanded, or it can be brought in togetherness or better coordination between the two. In this way, you manage the thing. That speed, that course of evolution, that direction, that momentum, all such things are required to be properly managed. So, importance of adaptive leadership to manage the dynamics of networks in public administration. Role of network managers, obviously, the role of network managers in coordinating the actors, resources, and information. So, National Highway Authority of India, the Larsen and Toubro, okay, then some various company providing technology companies and various service providers, they work together for the construction of roads and highways. But at the top, you have some officers, administrators appointed solely for the purpose of managing this network. That if there is any kind of conflict friction arises, they deal exclusively with that, and they specialize in dealing with this conflict and friction in the network, and then things become possible. Whether it is infrastructure development, or for that matter, various programs for socioeconomic development like Manrega, or you want to make India digital India, or do you want digital transformation? Everywhere you have more than one institutions, you need to work together. So, network managers, interdependence of organizations within a network, and importance of adaptive leadership to manage the dynamics of networks in public administration. आज भारत में ऐसी प्रोग्रेसिव एडेप्टिव लीडरशिप है एट द टॉप, डायनामिक लीडरशिप है, तो उसकी वजह से आप देखो कि सारे इंस्टीट्यूशंस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन कितने अच्छे कोलेब्रेशन में काम कर रहे हैं। जैसे हमने एग्जांपल दिया तो ऑपरेशन, तो ऐसा लगता है कि सक्सेस 3 या 4 दिन का है, आपने सब कर लिया, लेकिन वो 3-4 दिन के अंदर जो कुछ घटित हुआ, well measured and calibrated action, you neutralize, you accomplish the goal. आपने टेररिस्ट ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस उन सबको न्यूट्रलाइज किया और आपने गोल को अकम्प्लिश किया, वापस अपनी जगह पे आ गए और फिर इंतजार कर रहे हैं अपने हिसाब से हम रिस्पॉन्ड कर सकते हैं, कभी भी आपने बताया। ये सब चीज़ें लगा कि 3-4 दिन में हो गई, लेकिन 3-4 दिन वो दिख रहा है, लेकिन उसके पीछे तैयारी वर्षों की तैयारी उसके पीछे, ये आसान काम नहीं होता। उसके पीछे एक डायनेमिक लीडरशिप होगी, एक प्रोग्रेसिव और डायनेमिक लीडरशिप है, जिसने बहुत पहले देख लिया होगा कि एक सिचुएशन जो है ऐसी अराइज कर सकती है, तो वैसी स्थिति में हम रिस्पॉन्ड कैसे। बहुत लंबे समय से तैयारी चल रही होगी, ये बिल्कुल नहीं लगता है स्पॉन्टेनियस रिएक्शन तो हो ही नहीं सकता, इम्पॉसिबल है। बहुत लंबे समय में तैयारी चल रही होगी और भविष्य में भी अब वो आगे की तैयारी भी कर चुके होंगे कि अगर वाकई वार अगर हो गया दोनों के साथ, चाइना और पाकिस्तान के साथ, तो उस वक्त भी हम लोग देख पाएंगे। तो जो कर्मठ सरकार होगी वो ऐसे काम करेगी, प्रोएक्टिव अप्रोच, इंतजार नहीं कर रहे, वो एंटिसिपेट कर रहे हैं कि फ्यूचर में क्या क्या हो सकता है, एंड दे आर नॉट कन्फाइंड टू एंटिसिपेशन ओनली, यू एंटिसिपेट एंड अकॉर्डिंगली यू प्रिपेयर योर सेल्फ। दैट इज प्रोएक्टिव अप्रोच। It is not only about anticipating things, it is about preparing for things, in accordance with such anticipation. This is all about Toole's Toole's model of public management, and this theory holds a lot of significance because it helps not only the scholars but practitioners of public administration to understand public administration governance in contemporary times, in keeping with the principles of integral existence. That if you really want to grow, you want to move ahead, you have to work in collaboration with one another. आज जितने भी कंट्रीज हैं जो डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज बनी हैं, उन सब के इतिहास को आप देख लो, जितने भी जो कंट्री जो हर तरह से जो सक्षम हैं और सामर्थ्यवान हैं और जो प्रॉस्परस हैं, उन सब के कोर्स ऑफ एवोल्यूशन में एक स्टेज ऐसा जरूर आया है जिसमें गवर्नमेंट, प्राइवेट सेक्टर इंस्टीट्यूशंस, देन साइंटिफिक कम्युनिटी और सब ने मिलकर, ट्रेडर्स, बिजनेसमैन, सब लोगों ने मिलकर एक कोलैबोरेटिव मैकेनिज्म, कोलैबोरेटिव एक मॉडल जो उसके अंदर उन्होंने काम किया, कोलैबोरेटिव एक्शन लिया होगा, तभी वो सक्सेसफुल हो पाए। अदरवाइज आइसोलेशन में कभी भी कोई देश आगे नहीं बढ़ सकता। वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड। So therefore, it's important for scholars as well as practitioners of public administration that governance in contemporary times, whether it is policy making or policy implementation, it demands collective action. You have multiple stakeholders, okay, they share decision making and they carry out collective action. Accountability is enforced. The leadership at the top is dynamic and progressive. And in overall operation, policy making, implementation, a lot of resilience is there, adaptability is there, and then you become successful. cyclical process is developed, and that cyclical process is sustained. That you frame policies, you implement that, you collect feedback, you apply correctives, and the process goes on and on. Collective action. Every institution, organization knows what is a role perception is very clear. Every institution, organization knows that what it is supposed to do and what not, and how they have to cover. It is not enough to discharge your responsibilities. It is a part of your responsibility to ensure that you make your genuine contribution so that others could discharge their responsibilities properly. It is not only about केवल मंदिर में जाके खुद ही दर्शन करना और प्रसाद चढ़ाना, ये कोई भक्ति वाले मामला नहीं हुआ। बहुत भीड़ भाड़ अगर है तो आप अपनी पूजा अर्चना भी कर रहे हैं, प्रसाद चढ़ा रहे हैं भगवान को, और आपके आसपास जो लोग हैं उनकी पूरी मदद कर रहे हैं, जो दिक्कत उनको मदद करे, तब जाकर के हुआ कि आप मंदिर में गए। ठीक है, ये प्रसाद प्रसाद चढ़ाना जो है भगवान उससे कोई बहुत ज़्यादा आपसे इंप्रेस होने वाले नहीं, बहुत लोग चढ़ा रहे हैं। आपका मन सुंदर होना चाहिए। ठीक है, इसलिए सब कुछ, हर समाज, और आप सोसाइटी की बात करते हैं, कंट्री की बात करें, हर जगह ये ऐसा ही कलेक्टिव और कोलैबोरेटिव एक्शन चाहिए। ठीक है, इट्स नॉट एनफ टू डिस्चार्ज योर इंस्टीट्यूशनल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, यू हैव टू इंश्योर इन नेटवर्क गवर्नेंस दैट माई एक्शन should not lead to any kind of trouble for others. And second, ये तो साधारण सी बात हुई। Secondly, you need to ensure that what can be done by us so as to ensure that others are also capable of discharging their responsibilities properly. अप टू सर्टेन लिमिट, जहाँ तक पॉसिबल है वहाँ तक आप दूसरों की मदद भी करेंगे। दिस वे you can improve the quality of collective response to great extent, and you can maximize the output, or you can accomplish. This is O Toole's description or public management model. Thank you.